Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Shield. Welcome to Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. It's great to be here with you today. I am going to talk about self-sabotage when it comes to dating. So many of us are getting in our own way and we don't even know it. So, first of all, let's talk about why you might be self-sabotaging. In my experience, if you take it all down to its bare bones, the reason we do this are really two things: the fear of getting what we want and the fear of not getting what we want. So I think at the very core of, at the very essence of why we are afraid, it's like we are grabbing for love, we're reaching for it with one hand and we're pushing it away with another. So many of us were just as afraid of getting it as not getting it. Let's look at both sides of that. We're afraid of not getting it because we go on dates and we get rejected, or we reject other people. We have to face putting ourselves out there and then seeing what comes back. It's very humbling to put your best foot forward, or what you think is your best foot, and then not really get many responses, or get responses from the wrong men. And so that's humbling, right? Like, you may think you're wonderful, and you probably are. Don't get me wrong. I know for myself, I was accomplished. I had money in the bank. I had a great life. I felt like I had most of the pieces of my own life together. And maybe you relate to this, but I was not connecting with men, or men were not attracted to me, and certainly not the kinds of men I really wanted to connect with. And so for years and years and years of my life, this was humbling and a very hard pill to swallow. And it made me wonder if I would ever have the kind of love and the kind of relationship I wanted. And I think what is saddest about that is that superficially, like on a surface level, when I looked around and I saw all the men around me, who I thought were attractive men just from what I saw on the surface, they were wanting to date other women. They were not approaching me. They weren't asking me on dates. Sure, there were men who were approaching me, but I didn't like any of those men. There were other men that I thought, wow, those are the kinds of guys I want to be with and should be with. And they weren't attracted to me. And this was really hard for me to live with because, from the time I was a kid, a girl in high school and junior high, and then on into college, I didn't get attention from what I thought were, the top guys. And that was really humbling because I would look at myself in the mirror and I thought, wait a minute, I like who I am. I mean, I thought I was as cute as the other women. And, am I a supermodel? No. Did I weigh, 90 pounds? No. But there were plenty of women who I felt I was just as attractive as they are. And, they got a lot more male attention than I did. And I couldn't understand why. It was mystifying to me and heartbreaking. And so the fear of not getting what I wanted or thought that I wanted in a partner was terrifying for me. And I always felt, a part of me felt like I was going to have to settle, right? That there were men who were handsome and successful and all, and that I couldn't have the cream of the crop. I had to settle for less than that because, um, yeah, I'd never really gotten a lot of male attention. And so I didn't see my own walls. I didn't see my blind spots. I didn't see the gaps in my knowledge. I didn't see how I was self sabotaging. And we're going to get into some of that in a moment. The other way that we sell, the other flip side of this is the fear of getting what we want. Like, oh my God, what if I do meet that guy who is everything I ever wanted and I somehow ruin it? What if I go on a date with that guy and he turns around and says, yeah, no, I don't think so. I actually had that happen. I went on a date with a man, 2 dates with a guy that I thought was really fantastic. And after the second date, he literally said to me, on our first date, I thought, wow, she's great. And this really has potential. And then after our second date, I realized you still have a lot of work to do. um, Luckily, at that time, I was able to hear what he said and not take it personally. He was going to a wonderful one through a wonderful program called uh, USM, the University of Santa Monica. It was in Los Angeles. The program really doesn't exist anymore. It's not a master's degree now. But I thought, wow, if there's guys like him in that program and I have things to learn, I'll go through that program. So I wound up going to USM and getting my master's in spiritual psychology thanks to this guy. And I actually married one of the men who wrote one of the books that we read while we were in that program. So it all worked out perfectly fine. But it's hard sometimes to be sitting face to face with a man that you think, wow, this is a really great guy. This is the kind of guy I think I'm looking for. And to have that person turn around and not feel that you're a match. So that's also really hard to face that kind of rejection. So it comes at us in both ways. And I think what happens is many of us are not in touch with that. And I think, sometimes I say to people, if you can't really get in touch with those feelings, it's important to imagine the guy that you really are looking for, the kind of man that you dream of being with. If he sat down across from you on a date, how would you feel? Would you be ready to walk into that relationship and would you feel like I got this and I know exactly what to say and do and how to be my authentic self, how to get emotionally naked and ask for what I want and need in a partner? Would you be ready for that? Right? So I think that what we tell ourselves and the reality of that man sitting down across from us are two very different things, right? And um, I think it's really important to be honest with yourself about this stuff because we make up, we have personas and we tell ourselves, oh, I'm ready. And where's my guy? And I can't find any quality men to date, which is really bullshit. And I'm going to say this, there are quality men out there and quality women attract quality men. And I am not talking about women who just are independent and have it all together and look good on the outside. The most important part of all of this is who you are on the inside, how you talk to men, your level of compassion for men, your ability to make room in your life for a man, to make space for him to bring his full self into the relationship and not be needy or desperate or manipulative, to be able to give a man space. Many men need a lot of space in a relationship. They're afraid of giving up their personal freedom for a woman, and they're afraid of a woman, really making their world smaller instead of larger. And these are all concepts that you may say to yourself, oh, well, I'll make a man's world, larger. I know how to do that. But I think a lot of the women who go through our 12-week emotionally naked dating course realize very quickly how little they truly know about men, how to love and understand men with compassion and kindness, and how to literally make room in their life and in their heart for a real man to be his full self in a relationship. So, how do we self sabotage? What are some ways? And I'd be interested to see if some of you want to offer your suggestions for how you think you may be self sabotaging, or how maybe you see your girlfriend self sabotaging. I mean, one that comes to mind very quickly is surrounding yourself with people who are not in great relationships themselves, who are struggling like you are, who don't have this figured out, and commiserating with your other single girlfriends about these kinds of things, because then you get into this negative feedback loop and you start buying into all these horrible negative stories about men and dating and online dating. And especially, if you're sharing all your war stories, how you got ghosted and whatever, it gets multiplied, right? Not even your own personal story or experience, but then it gets validated and reinforced by all the negative experiences of your girlfriends who are also struggling. I think when I dated, I know that I intentionally did not share my dating experience with any of my girlfriends. Nobody, nobody. I even remember one of my dear friends she's no longer here and I miss her terribly. She was a wonderful woman. And she didn't mean anything by this. But when I actually met my husband, the man who's now Benjamin, my husband, when I met Benjamin, and I was telling her in a very calm and grounded way, I said, Dagmar, I met the most wonderful man. And I really think there's something here. And she started saying, oh, you're rushing in. And how do you know? And blah, blah, blah. And she started putting this negative spin on what I was telling her. And I wasn't even, over the top. I wasn't exaggerating. I was speaking in very calm and measured tones, the same way I am right now. And she literally started projecting her own stuff onto me. And I know she didn't do it intentionally and she wasn't trying to be hurtful. I know she loved me and she was trying to protect me, but it was, case in point that those things like Don Miguel Ruiz talks about in the Four Agreements, these kinds of conversations can be poisonous because gossip and negativity can be, when somebody takes their negativity and they project that on to you, you then take it in, right? And it's very hard not to get those voices out of your head, those critical voices, and that, somebody starts planting those seeds and it can start to erode your confidence. So surround yourself with people who are successful, who are supportive, who are optimistic, who are positive, and will encourage you instead of discourage you in this part of your life. Another thing that I see frequently, and I think this is a big one, is having bad photographs and a very unprofessional or bad dating profile. Now, again, we don't see ourselves objectively, and it is one of the hardest things to do is write your own bio. Even professional writers hire other people to write their bios for them because that is such a difficult thing to write about yourself and to see yourself objectively. And not only that, but to present yourself in a way that that men would like to see you. So in our 12-week program, my husband writes the dating profiles for all of our women. And these things are extraordinary. They are absolutely representational of those women, but they are also written in a way that a man is able to read it and say, oh my gosh, I can't wait to connect with her. She's amazing. I've never read a profile like this. This woman really gets men. And so he knows how to write these profiles in a way that speaks to a man's heart. And this is so important. The other thing, as I was saying earlier, are the photographs. So this kind of dovetails into the second or the third one that I want to talk about, the third form of self-sabotage, which, I've seen this happen over and over again. Now, most of us don't come out of the fashion industry. We are not experienced in how to dress and all. We all maybe have developed a sense of style, but it is extremely important to have a real sense of how to dress. So you can either push men away or attract the wrong men by being overly sexual, right? In your photos. I look at a lot of the photos from women, and especially when I was living in LA and coaching women there, the women, were overly sexualized. They retouched the hell out of their photos. They knew how to position themselves and purse their lips and look like pinup girls and not real people. So there's that side of it where you're going to get men who are attracted to you, but they're going to be attracted to you because you're sexualizing yourself. You're promoting yourself sexually. And so that's how they're going to see you. And of course, they're going to be drawn to you, right? You're going to get responses from that, but you have to ask yourself, are you going to get the right male attention? And then there's the flip side of this, which is I have seen many of our clients, our own clients, who have gotten professional photos done. They've gone to great lengths. They even had a blowout. They had professional makeup done. And then they show up in jeans and a t-shirt. And that, is fine for one photo. But if you're going to do 3 looks, you don't want to do 2 jeans and a t-shirt and then a little dress. You want to actually look attractive. And the other thing that is so important, you've got to show some skin. You can't be up to here and down to the floor. So when you dress, you either want to show something on the top, a little bit of, skin, even if you don't like your arms. Like, I'm not so crazy about mine these days, but you can show a little off the shoulder, right? That's sexy. If you're showing a little bit of your shoulder in a photograph, that's very sexy. You don't want to have something up all the way up to your neck. You can show a little bit of your neckline, right? Or if you've got great legs, you may want to wear a shorter skirt or show a little bit of your legs, something, but you do not want to be in jeans and a t-shirt up to here. That's not attractive. You also don't want to be wearing a long dress where you're up to here and down to the floor. You've got to balance some level of something. You've got to not be completely covered up, because a man is going to look at those photos and his immediate response is, she's a prude. And they're not going to be attracted. And I know some of you may not like what you're hearing me say today, but this is true. The other thing is, and this is another thing that a lot of women don't want to hear, most men are going to be more attracted to the vast majority of women who have longer hair. And it is just considered more feminine. Just like you want a guy who looks like a man and doesn't, have long hair and earrings and whatever. Most of you are not looking for that. You want men who look and feel like men to you. If a woman is too much of a, now some women can carry it off. Don't get me wrong. There are gorgeous women who can carry off a very short haircut. And when I was in the fashion industry, and it was the supermodel era, and I will never forget when, if any of you remember Linda Evangelista, she was like the top model in those days. And when Linda Evangelista cut her hair off, it was like a wow. It sent a ripple through the fashion world. But Linda Evangelista was Linda Evangelista, and she carried it off. But not everybody looks great. I know myself. I mean, I don't ever cut my hair super short, but I know like my hair is growing out right now. I moved to New Mexico, and it's very dry here. And we had a very difficult hair period for a moment there. And now my hair is finally growing out and I'm getting it, back to where it was. But I know I feel feminine with a little bit longer hair and not some short boyish haircut. And the reason for that is that when a man looks at a woman, he wants to see a woman, not a boy. And that's another thing, that brings us to another form of self-sabotage that many women just don't even see. And it's invisible to us. It becomes our MO, and it's something that it's invisible. We become like men. We may look like women on the outside, but we're like men on the inside, right? We're tough, we're hard, we're busy, we're getting things done. We have an agenda, and this is a tough one. And I know my heart goes out to women today who are clearly so accomplished, so intelligent, so put together in so many ways. But what they've done is they've sacrificed their femininity. And when a man sits across from a woman like this on a date and she isn't able to see that she's really coming across as a man, no matter how beautiful she is, no matter how much she really does have to offer the right man. And I just want to put a little pause there. I want to tell you all, this is so subtle. I never want to tell my clients to lean back and let men chase you and all this bullshit that really makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. That isn't how you want to be with men. You can take what I call the feminine lead. So it's really not taking your power away. It's actually, when my women work with me, it's empowering. I don't want you running the show and telling men what to do, because that doesn't work. Not if you want a man who's really going to feel like he can be a man with you and for you. But I show the women I work with how to ask for what they want and need from a man but in a feminine way, in a way that draws these men closer to them. So that brings us to another way that we self-sabotage, not asking for what we want, being afraid that a man will think of us as being needy if we express our needs. And so many of you go along in relationships and you, like I did, and you see other women getting, where men are tripping over themselves to take them on trips and buy them gifts and take care of them and all. And you wonder, what's wrong with me? Why aren't men doing, or why aren't the men I want to do those things for me doing those things? And it's because you don't ask. I had a client once who I adored, and she was, she said, my guy, she had all the money in the world because she had family money, but she still wanted her guy to give her gifts and do things for her. What woman doesn't want that? I mean, we may tell ourselves we don't. I did that for a long time, but the truth was, I did. I wanted a man to want to take me on vacations and do lovely things for me and buy me dinner and buy me gifts. And this woman, this client of mine, I said, look, I think it's because, your dad can get you anything you want and you've never said anything and he thinks you're happy. He thinks because you've never said anything that things are fine the way they are and that you don't really need anything from him like that. So I said, the next time you're walking around Beverly Hills, look in a window and compliment, say, wow, that's a beautiful dress. Or what do you think that would look nice on me? Or I've really had my eye on that handbag. What do you think? And see if he gets it for you. And sure enough, she did that. And he did. He got it for her. So I think the right guy is trying to make you happy. He wants to do nice things for you. But if you can self-sabotage, and then what happens for us is we feel resentful. We're angry because men aren't doing these things for us, but we're not creating that space for them to do it. And so it's important. I remember once my husband and I really did need a new wallet. And I had been online. I was looking, there's the cutest French woman. She actually goes through all the Louis Vuitton wallets, the small ones, the big ones, and whatever. And I think she has a series of 3 different videos going over all the different Louis Vuitton wallets. And she was explaining, how to take care of them and which are the best ones and whatever. And it was adorable. Anyway, I was looking at it and we happened to be at the Santa Monica Mall, the 3rd Street Promenade, and there was a Louis Vuitton store and we were killing time. And I took Benjamin's hand and I said, hey, I've been looking for a new wallet. Let's go in. And, I started looking at all the different wallets and whatever. And there was one that had, the Louis Vuitton leather and then this orange flap. And I love orange. It's my favorite color. And Benjamin just, we put them down and I said, okay, we can go. And he picked up the one with the orange flap and he said, we'll take this one. It was the cutest thing in the world. But if I hadn't taken him in that store and I hadn't been looking at the wallets, I wouldn't have known. Now, could I have gone and just bought that wallet for myself? Yeah, I could, I have the money. I have a credit card. I could have done that. But it was so sweet. And I actually still have it. I've had it for, I still use it. It's probably been about 6 years now. But it's so sweet. And every time I look at it, I think of Benjamin bought that for me. And I opened that space up, but no man had ever done that. I never even expressed. I think I was so afraid to ask for what I wanted because I didn't think a man would do those things for me. And so I never asked. Now I can't even mention something I want because Benjamin will get it for me. So that's the flip side. I better really want it. He bought me, surprised me with a car a few years ago on my birthday. And I mean, it was my dream car, except that we didn't need two cars. So I wound up with this amazing car. You know, we had to pay, the insurance on it and all, and I wound up moving it. We didn't have parking, we didn't have a garage where we lived in LA, and so I wound up having to move it, you know, for street cleaning every week from one side of the street to the other. And finally we sold it because we just didn't need a second car. But not asking for what you want and need in a, you know, in a relationship, number one, it builds up resentment in you because you're, you know, most women long for that. We want a man to want to do those things for us, and it does make us feel cherished and adored and taken care of and feminine when a man does those things. But it's also important that you are willing to say to a man, hey, I love it when you take me to a nice dinner. I love it when you plan our dates. I get so excited when I look down at my phone and see a text from you. And the more you do that, the more you're letting a man know what makes you happy. And the right man is going to see that as an invitation to make you happy. And making you happy means he can get close to you. And they're looking for ways in. So each time you ask for something and the right man does it, he's showing you that he's looking for the way in, right? Another way we self-sabotage is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So this is a huge form of self-sabotage. It may be that you rush into relationships quickly, or you rush into sex quickly, or maybe you push men away because they're not reading your mind, or maybe you're incredibly critical and you find fault with everybody. But if you are seeing, you know, if there are patterns, which there are for most of us. This is one of the things that we do in the first week of my 12-week program. We really identify these patterns. I walk you through an entire week of the course that is very deep and intense and all, and eye-opening. And we identify what those patterns are and how you've been blind and self-sabotaging. And then we look at how you're going to break them moving forward. So that is a pivotal week. I think it is an important, you know, a vital process in dating to really identify these things. And the way we do it in my program is not linear. It's not like you sit down and you go, oh, well, what are my patterns? No, I have a whole process that I walk my clients through that actually reveals those patterns in a much more organic way so that they're able to identify patterns they couldn't even see them, that they weren't aware that they were doing. And so it's very eye-opening. You have to start to see those patterns, and then it is up to you to consciously break them and make new choices. So this is, you know, consciousness work. It is about building awareness and then being able to move forward and really do this in a very different way. It's funny, I was talking to someone today, and she talked about a program, a book that was written about how you're supposed to date, you know, a whole bunch of people at once, and you're supposed to say yes to any guy that asks you out. And if they're nice to you, you're supposed to continue dating them. And, you know, I know a little bit about the approach she was talking about, but when I hear some of this stuff, it just makes my stomach tie into knots because it's really, you know, I understand that they're trying to get you out there and breaking patterns and all, But I don't know. Like I think that the idea of not just focusing on one person and going, is this my guy? And having one person who's in your focus, I don't think that's a great idea, but I also don't think that people should be continuing to date somebody and say yes and keep going just because a guy is nice. That's crazy. And it's also, I think you can date multiple people, but you can move through them quickly so that you're, getting to your guy faster. I think if you're dating four guys and you just keep saying yes, even though it's painful to see most of them, that's not helpful either. So in our program, we really get you clear on how to recognize the qualities you should be looking for in a partner. And these qualities, by the way, are different for every woman. What's right for you is not what's right for me. One of my final five, one of the five qualities that I looked for was not a man who was emotionally available. I didn't find that an issue for me. I would have never, ever said that I dated men who weren't emotionally available. Now, one thing was that wasn't a catchphrase when I was dating. So maybe it wasn't in my awareness, but that wasn't really one of my key repeating patterns. There were other things I was doing that were really, important, patterns I wanted to break. Like I was dating men who um, weren't very self aware, and I felt a lot of the time like I was having to be their therapist, or let's just say I put myself in the position of thinking I needed to be their therapist. And the bottom line was it was because I didn't respect them. And so I was always trying to help them improve. And I realized that I needed to date a man that I looked up to and respected. And that was really humbling for me. So I had different things, different patterns I was focused, that I needed to break. Um, but your patterns will be different than my patterns, and then, someone else's patterns. So they're very unique to each individual. So we help you get clear on these five key pieces that you must be looking for in your next partner so that you can break these patterns. Um, Another way that we self-sabotage is that we beat ourselves up. We beat ourselves up for not knowing what we didn't know. And it is very, very, very hard to grow and learn and to move forward in your life and in your love life and open up your heart and get emotionally naked with a man if you're punishing yourself for making mistakes. It is really, really, really hard. And if you keep doing that, it is a form of self-sabotage. You need to learn how to develop love and compassion for yourself. And compassion doesn't mean being permissive. It just means understanding that we fail many times before we succeed at something we're trying to learn or something new that we are learning. So it's very important not to beat yourself up, but to ask yourself, how can I do this differently? What are the changes I can make? What can I learn from what hasn't worked so I can start to move forward and keep my heart open? Because if you punish yourself and beat yourself up, the tendency is actually what most people do is they start building more barriers. They start putting up more hurdles, more hoops for men to jump through. They start becoming more cautious, more particular, and that actually makes it harder. When I did this, I looked at all the mistakes I made and I said, whoa, okay, I did all these things that didn't work. And then I would say, okay, well, these guys aren't perfect either, right? We're all trying to figure this out. We're all just, a bunch of clueless people, right? Trying to learn. And so we're going to make mistakes. We're going to all go through and act out and all. And so I realized, look, everybody's done things that they're not proud of. Everybody has made mistakes, especially in this part of our lives. We've stayed with people we shouldn't have stayed with. We've pushed away really good people that looking back were, could have been excellent partners and we weren't ready for them. We've broken hearts. We've had our hearts broken. It's just the way it goes. We've acted and behaved in ways that we're ashamed of. I have a great story that I think is hysterical now, but boy, it was it was really sad at the time. Um, I had a boyfriend, and I also had this theory that two people should be able to talk about something and reach a consensus, right? Like if you talked about it enough, you would be able to reach an understanding. Well, that isn't necessarily true. And it's only true if both people are really open to hearing each other and really understand how to negotiate and reach a consensus, which I certainly at that time did not have that skill set. And I just was like pleading with this boyfriend of mine and begging him to talk to me. And I was so forceful and insistent, and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. And my words were actually pushing him out the door. He was literally walking backwards out the door. I can still see us sitting in my kitchen and him walking backwards saying, "Leave me alone. I can't talk about this anymore." And it was one of the low points in my love life. And I really had to look at that. And I have looked at that moment many times. I would handle that very differently today, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So, um, but beating yourself up over these kinds of things, like I stayed in my marriage, I stayed in my relationship with my ex-husband for 13 years. And every day I told myself I can do better, I should leave, and I didn't. And I know why I didn't leave. I was not ready to go back out there because I was really afraid I'd be alone for the rest of my life. There was no internet dating when I left my husband. And I was scared. I hadn't had a very good history, a good past with men. I had not been what I would consider desirable to men. And so I was very afraid to leave him, even though I knew that there was so much wrong in our relationship. So, when I got out of that relationship, one of the things I thank God for is my uh, ability to own my part and take responsibility for the choices I made. And I just said to myself, he has to figure out why he does the things he does, but I have to look at why I picked him and why I stayed with him for 12 years. So that was on me, you know. Um, so these are some of the ways we self-sabotage. And I'm interested. I want to just kind of look and see. Um, let's just see. So Tina says, I'm retiring in 7 months. Sign me up. These guys are a joke. They need you, Lisa. Tina, I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that, nobody's a joke. We're all trying to figure this out. And nobody really shows us how to do this in a good way. Nobody teaches us how to have what we call guardian of your soul relationships. And so, yeah, it's really, I think that we see so few role models of what's really possible out there. So I don't think it's just the men. Um, Denise, thank you for all that support. You said, I think that is the best thing not to share until after you are in a committed relationship. And I'm not sure, I may be coming in the middle. Yeah, you said, so you wrote, I think I self-sabotage when I focus on the negatives versus the positives. I agree. It is so easy to focus on all the negative things because it keeps us safe, right? If we can find something wrong with all these people, then we don't actually have to get close to somebody. One thing that a lot of us do, a form of self-sabotage, is keeping one foot in and one foot out. So we're kind of poised to run at a moment's notice. The minute something goes wrong, we can just tell ourselves, oh yeah, you know, I don't need this, and we can move on to another relationship. So that's, and we're just waiting for something to go wrong instead of having both feet in and being willing to talk about things and really navigate and see if we can work through things together. All right. My biggest issue is not expressing my needs. Denise, I think it's a huge, huge issue for so many of us. So many of us. Uh, Tammy said, knowing my attachment style has helped me a lot. I'm dating a wonderful man, 30 days now, and your podcasts have helped me so much. I'm so glad. That's wonderful, Tammy. That's wonderful. All right, everybody. Well, it looks like we're almost at the end of the hour. So I'm going to thank you all for listening. It's been wonderful sharing this time with you. Please tune in. We have all of our podcasts on my website, lisashield.com. So if you liked this and you want to listen to more, please head over there. You can also click the button to watch my free 45-minute presentation. Women seem to love it. It seems to be a game changer for them. So please check that out. And if you like what you hear, you can work with us. All you need to do is stay to the end. You can book a call, and we will show you in 12 weeks what would take you 12 years to figure out on your own. So if you want to get this solved, you want to put all the pieces of the puzzle together in this part of your life, and you're done messing around and you just want to find the guardian of your soul, then please sign up for a call. A member of my team will listen to what's happening in your love life, and she'll see if if you're a good fit for the work that we do. We do not work with every woman we talk to. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that because we really respect you and we have your back, and we're not interested in enrolling every person that comes along. We want to work with the women we know we can truly help. And finally, if you have any suggestions for future topics, please send them to podcast@lisashield.com. We take them very seriously. We go over that list every week before we come up with our topics. So please make sure that you do that you send us your ideas. And we also have an episode that we do with my husband and me. It is called Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. It is still part of this podcast, but you will see some episodes with me and some episodes with my husband and me. So check those out too, and tell everyone you know about this broadcast. We really want to build our audience, and we want to keep doing this. And the best way for us to keep doing this is for you to help us spread the word. So love to you all. Thank you so, so, so much for being here. And I will see you next week. Take care, everybody, and lots of love.